The wealth transfer is real, ladies. The wealth transfer is real. In tonight's conversation, we are going to be talking about becoming a six-figure trust officer. So, I have a great guest, a special guest tonight, and we're going to talk about how if you want to, you can become a trust officer. You can work with elderly, wealthy clients. You can help the wealthy manage their money. You can help the people who are going to inherit their wealth manage their money. And this is a great career option for my UMBWs. So don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend or two about us. We're going to put the 90-second clock on, give people a chance to come in. And then when we come back, we're going to have our special guests come. All right, ladies, here's the 90-second clock. Welcome to Black Women Making Money. We are the home of the upwardly mobile Black woman. For exclusive content and invitations to our Inner Circle Zoom meetings, which happen on a monthly basis, you can sign up for free for our email newsletter at bwmakingmoney.com. That's bwmakingmoney.com. Hello, ladies. Hello. I have a special guest, as you could see on the screen. Her name is Legacy is a Lifestyle. You've probably seen her in the chat. And she works with wealthy clients. A lot of them are either elderly, they're baby boomers, or they're like Gen X, towards the higher age range. And she, said, hey, I'll come and talk about being a trust officer, how my UMBWs can do it. And that's what we are here to talk about tonight. So first of all, Legacy, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Hello, hello.
Absolutely. So ladies, put your UMBWs in the chat. Let me see you. Put your UMBWs in the chat. If you're listening to the replay, put your UMBW in the replay. That way we can, get this party started. Let YouTube know that you're liking the content. So, why did you think this was an important topic? We are over here, we're like, either there are some of us that already have a career path, some of us are thinking about career paths, some of us have a main thing that we want to do, but we want to start something on the side. So, you volunteered this topic, and I'm curious, why you think this is a great topic for us as UMBWs.
I volunteered this topic specifically because it's a career path that is not well traveled, especially for upwardly mobile Black women, and it's a career path that has the potential to be extremely lucrative. And also with all of your conversations about wealth and taking care of your finances and building and growing wealth, what better way to be able to understand that is to have an opportunity or a career where that's literally what you do all day, 24/7. So
Mhm.
those conversations and that skill set can be carried over into your household. So I thought it was kind of two sides, the career path, then what you can learn personally to take home to your family and guide them in that way too.
I think that's great because the more I do this channel and like some of the things I'm prepping, the better I become with managing the finances within our household and things.
Mhm.
And within 2025 and going forward, I do want to have like, a couple of times a month where I'm talking about like, financial stuff, like real things
Yes.
that we're able to do, little things. And that education really does come in handy. So you're able to
Mhm.
get paid and
Yes.
then make sure that your family gets to have income and wealth and keep that wealth generationally. So I think
Yes.
that's great. Denise is here saying, "Hey, ladies." Demir is in the building. Her UMBW is in the building.
Mhm.
Unagreeable is here. Yes, ladies, put your UMBW in the chat. Tonight's conversation is going to be great. I think you all are going to be very enlightened by what Legacy has to say. Um, so let's start off with just a little bit of a conversation about the great wealth transfer. And
Mhm.
anybody who's been on my chat knows that I have been banging the gong with
Mhm.
regard to the great wealth transfer. And yes, I know that a lot of Black people are not going to inherit money, even though I would venture to say a lot of Black people will inherit something. It just depends on what they do with it. Not all.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there are going to be more Black people than we think inheriting land, property. We're not necessarily going to get life insurance policies, cash, stocks, bonds.
Mhm.
If you have a baby boomer, like older baby boomer parent, you may get
Yes.
bonds. But a lot of us will be getting property and
Mhm.
things like that that we can then take and hopefully do something with. So
Yes.
by 2030, we're expecting a massive wealth transfer. Women are going to have $34 trillion. And I was looking on Erica Williams' channel the other day, and she said, a lot of these older men are marrying these younger women and the wealth is going to transfer to them. Of course, she was being silly, but she was funny. I mean, she was being serious as well. Also, Gen X and millennials are going to be inheriting a lot of money. There are a lot of millennials that are going to inherit over $1 million. And
Mhm.
live in that world, you work with a lot of wealthy people. Talk to us a
Yes.
little bit about being a trust officer. I know that there are different job categories, things like that. So I'm just going to
Yes.
let you rip right now with regards to this, what's coming, and how we can get involved.
Thank you, Cherie. So first, I want to kind of give a little bit about my background, and then kind of bring it forward. So I come from the law firm side of trust and estates, and that I went to paralegal school in 2007. Got my paralegal certificate. I had an undergraduate degree in business management prior to that. Went to paralegal school and took my first trust and estates class, and I was literally hooked. And the reason that I was hooked was because at the time, my grandmother had inherited some land with two other family members. And what I watched her go through with selling that land, with working with the other family members to sell the land, and then subsequently finding out that this particular land, after they sold it, years later, is now a subdivision. And so I was hooked on just the technical side of things, like how does this work? How do you pass assets down? What does this mean? And what are the implications? So I was a paralegal in trust and estates for high net worth and ultra high net worth families for over a decade. I transitioned into working for UBS, in which they are an international financial firm, and working on their legal team, where I reviewed trusts and wills and powers of attorney. So if a client presented any of those documents to be added to their account, I was on the legal team that reviewed that. Fast forward, I was a trust officer, a trust assistant actually at Regions Bank. And then just bringing it forward now, um, and me taking a corporate position as a trust officer. Now, because I had this background, I, as I've grown over the years, it has become easier, for lack of a better term, to navigate my way through these different paths in trust and estates, because there are so many ways that you can go. I've mentioned paralegal. I've mentioned being a trust assistant. I've mentioned working on a legal team inside a inside a bank or financial institution that reviews these documents. And now, of course, here working on the corporate side again as a trust officer. And what I do as a trust officer, specifically on the what we call on the estate side, is that when a client passes away, I'm the trust officer or one of the trust officers that gets assigned to that family to basically shut that person's life down. So what do I mean by shutting their life down? I fly anywhere. We represent clients and families all over the country. So it's nothing for me to have to jump on a plane and go and secure property, residential property, secure vehicles, secure boats, Sea-Doos, and all of their cousins, to be the first person, the first physical representation of myself to the family. Um, Working with realtors to sell homes if they're going to be sold, working to get them ready for sale, estate sales, closing down their life, meaning working with the CPA to close down file their final tax return, also to collect the documents that we're going to need to oversee their trust, because a lot of these clients have trusts that will survive them. And they also have what's called resulting trust, which means that trust may have created another trust for children or grandchildren or siblings. And so I help to kind of synthesize all of this information. I synthesize and gather and collect all of these assets. I also work with the beneficiaries. A lot of times, this is their first time coming into this amount of money or any money at all. So working through them about, now what does this look like for them, and kind of holding their hand through the process. Now, although I had this background, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to have the background that I've had in order to transition to being a trust officer. There's such a shortage of trust officers. There's a shortage of estate planning generalists, period. There's a shortage of trust assistants. There's a shortage of trust administrators. And a trust assistant, in a typical trust company, the kind of hierarchy is, a trust officer, and then a trust officer may manage a trust assistant and or a trust administrator. And these are just people that help them move the caseload along for each family, helping with bill pay, for example, helping with organizing. We may have to do some presentations to the family. So a trust officer or trust administrator may do that. Excuse me, a trust assistant or trust administrator may do that. But the trust officer is the main person, the main point of contact for the family, for CPAs, for financial advisors, as we move this person's what we call postmortem administration along through the courts and settle their life, and also making sure that everything is prepped and prepared so that long term, the trust that survives them is going to be administered properly.
So, okay, you said a lot. How big is this industry? Because it sounds like a trust officer has a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
But Typically in the Black community, we don't hear about trust too much. You kind of starting to hear about a little bit because now
Mhm.
celebrities are starting to talk about trust, right?
Yes.
But we
Yes.
don't think a lot of people have trust. Do they? Do like our counterparts, a lot of them have trust? Like, how big is this thing?
Let's just say that there's a shortage. And when I mean a shortage, I mean that this is a career to where once you get in and you kind of, get 2 to 3 years under your belt, you will never have to apply for another job. A recruiter will be
Wow.
reaching out to you, or a headhunter will be calling you, or someone would be trying to poach you from where you are. And that's literally what has happened to me. About 7 years in, I've not applied for, excuse me, I've not applied for a job. I've literally had uh, placements with firms that specifically place attorneys in. For example, they place attorneys in estate planning firms, paralegals in estate planning firms, and specifically for high net worth and ultra high net worth. And I want to be very clear about that. There are a lot of estate planning um, attorneys and estate planning, and even with what I do as a trust officer, there are various varying ranges of trust, but where you want to focus is where the firm or the corporate trustee firm primarily focus on high net worth and ultra high net, because this is where you're going to get the technical education, the technical know-how to navigate specifically where the rubber meets the road is understanding these tax situations with these various types of trusts. This is what separates a good trust officer from a great trust officer. And so now we've not only gone into trust officer, now we've stepped it up to trust officer with specific trust and estate tax knowledge and navigation. Let me tell you that can literally write you a $150,000 plus ticket, period. If you
Say that
understand,
again.
I'm telling you, if you understand the tax side of trust administration, estate
Mhm.
administration, we're talking 150 plus. And so I'm talking about you being able to work for the Ernst and Youngs of the world and being able to work specifically in their tax division. So not only that, we're speaking about trust officers today, but I'm also wanting you to open your mind about the possibilities of where it can even take you further.
Mhm.
um, and if you can get the taxes under your belt and understand the implications and understanding what it means to file a gift tax return, what documentation you need to be able to do that, being able to recognize when a CPA has made an error, you will be able to write literally your own check.
So let's pause for a second. First of all, Main Femme Fatale is in here saying bonjour, bonjour. Kat Bravo is in here, UMBW, and Demure is saying, wow, we need to be in more careers where we'll be contacted by recruiters in any market. This is absolutely the case. Ladies, I want you to put a 1 in the chat if you're enjoying the conversation this evening thus far. Legacy has said a whole lot, including my favorite terms of recruiters will contact you and $150,000 plus, write your own ticket, because that's where we need to be. Mentor Shelley is in the building saying UMBW, and we're getting our ones in the chat. You all are enjoying
Mhm.
tonight's conversation. Fantastic. Okay, so let's take a step back, and
Yes.
I want to make a comment, and
Hmm.
then I want to ask a question. My
Sure.
comment is, ladies, I'm always telling you to have 4 things. I'm always telling you to have your technical skills, your soft skills, your multicultural networks, and your resources in order to navigate in any career that you're going to have. I cannot say this enough. When you're dealing with high net worth and ultra net worth people, the soft skills is really like where people are going to figure out if you're a good corporate fit for the
Mhm.
organization. And one of the top soft skills that you need to have is the skill of discretion.
Mhm.
There was a young lady who was, I don't know if she was a nursing assistant or whomever, but she got fired because she was dancing on some patient's head on TikTok. There are other people posting things on TikTok, while they're doing work and things like that. I'm
Mhm.
here to say now that those are the kinds of soft skills that will, and I even have to ask Legacy this. I just know people in that world.
Yes.
Those are the
Yes.
kinds of soft skills that will get you axed right away. If you
Yes.
need to do a social media audit and get rid of stuff, I suggest you do it. Mentor Shelley, I know you're in the chat. If you have something to say with regards to these kinds of careers, definitely put that in there as well.
And
Um,
it's funny you brought up social media because let me
mhm,
tell you, they look, the beneficiaries look, the company will look, the CPA will look that you're working with, the financial advisor will look because, and let me just say this too, because of the region of the country that I work in and I primarily worked in, I see the same people over and over again. I have worked for the same family in multiple law firms, worked for the same family in multiple corporate environments, and I've never mentioned the fact that I worked with this particular family at another organization. Not
mm,
once. It's none of their business. One, and I'm helping the family in a different capacity. So we never ever release that, discuss that. Um, and I'm glad you did. I'm glad you brought that up because discretion is very, very important. Because let me tell you, a beneficiary will go to your company profile, see your face, read your background, and literally go to make sure that it's legit.
mhm. Yes, they will. So I just want to warn my young
Mhm.
UMBWs with regards to these things.
Mhm.
The thing you mentioned a lot about taxes and
Yes.
being able to read taxes and be able to converse with CPAs,
Mhm.
which will enable you to be able to write your own ticket. And
Yes.
my mother is a bookkeeper. I know the tax world. So I actually, as a loan officer, when I started speaking with other people, I had a leg up because I understand the tax world as well, which is
Mhm.
honestly, a lot of people don't know how to read taxes, which is very interesting. Um,
Mhm.
but do you have to have a fancy degree in order to know how to do these things? Like, how do
So,
you get trained? Tell people about that because that may have people a little shy.
okay. So there are a variety of ways that you can get the technical knowledge that you need. As a matter of fact, the company that I happen to work for now, what I particularly would, one of the reasons I was particularly drawn to them, what kind of drew me to them is the fact that they actually prefer to hire people who don't have the background that I have
Hmm.
because they will teach you the technical skills as long as you have the soft skills, as long as you have the temperament to
Mm,
deal with beneficiaries. And we're talking about people who you're constantly, especially on my side, on the estate administration side of being a trust officer, someone is dying or about to die every day.
mhm,
So this is a very sensitive time for the family, for the representative, for the CPA who's worked with the family for 30 or 40 years, for the financial advisor who's worked with the family. They are a family. So you have to be very mindful that even when you're discussing business, you have to discuss it in a way that is very tactful because of someone just recently passing and navigating that and understanding that people go through multiple stages of grief and the waves of grief and all of that, just being mindful of that. But to answer your question, in that they just want you to be able to know something. So, and what do I mean by that? Do you know what a will is? Do you know what a trust is? Have you personally gone through the probate process with a deceased person? Guess what? That counts as knowledge. That
as
counts
experience.
as experience if you've navigated that. And so, but the company, like I said, that I work for, guess what? They're sending me to trust school. I just went to Trust
Wow.
School 1. I started Trust School 2 in the fall. And in the spring, I take Trust School 3. They're paying for me to become a CTFA. What is that? A Certified Trust and Fiduciary Advisor. They will pay for you. They have tuition assistance. And
Wow.
as a matter of fact, everyone in my company is encouraged to go through trust school no matter what your background is. On my team, I happen to work with a team of attorneys. Right now, on my team, I'm one of 2 people who just so happen to not be attorneys. However, on the trust administration side, or what we call across the hall, where it's just purely trust administration, meaning they don't work with the family while um, during the right after the funeral, so to speak. They take over the trust once I get it all tied up in a bow and transfer it off to them. They're long term who the beneficiary would work with. They are hiring 19 and 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds and 22-year-olds fresh out of college as a
Notice she
trust
said
assistant,
college, fresh out of college,
fresh
ladies. We're going
out
to
of
come back to
college.
that.
Yes, 22, 23, 24. They're hiring ex-Marines. They're hiring ex-cops because they have this skill set
Hmm.
that is very valuable when in this particular setting. We have within the company that I work for, we have a very specialized team that's called Distinctive Care.
Hmm.
Distinctive care works primarily with elderly, with the vulnerable community. And what we mean by vulnerable, a lot of the people that we manage trust for, they're older. The majority of them are older people. However, there becomes a time and a stage in an older person's life where they become vulnerable. So they transition over to this distinctive care team so they can have more hands on them, more eyes on them, more
Is that
visits
kind of like
with them.
Wendy Williams? Wendy
Ye-
Williams
It, it,
situation?
if Wendy Williams was a client, she would definitely be under the management of our distinctive care team. Our distinctive care team also works with beneficiaries who have disabilities,
Okay.
beneficiaries who are drug addicts, who are
Hmm.
alcoholics, because they need, and our distinctive care trust officers have social work backgrounds, have have that have therapy backgrounds, have psychology backgrounds. So this is an area that is available to you from various, like I said, we've hired retired law enforcement officers, and they've been able to be taught the um the technical side of things, how to administer of trust, what a K1 is, and talking and being knowledgeable about the trust taxation and things like that. But that soft side, that social side, that's where they spent a lot of their time, but that is invaluable in this field, because you're, at the end of the day, you're dealing with people and their money, and you have to be able to talk to them and navigate through that, and hit things kind of head on.
Right. I love so much that you said that a lot of Black women have degrees in social work. We wanted to do good. However, these student loans are coming due and we don't
Mhm.
know what's going to happen with the current administration. I'm just
Mhm.
bracing for the bill right now.
Yes.
With regards to that. And I do see this now, the more and more you're talking, I see this as
Mhm.
like a place that's wide open for Black
Mhm.
women. You
Mhm.
know, we have our psychology degrees, we have our social work degrees already, or we're getting them. We have our
Yes.
teaching degrees, but we may not necessarily want to
We
go
just
into a
hired a
school.
teacher. We just hired a
Yes,
teacher.
yes, and we do have a certain way of caring for people.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think that this is really a really great option if you have daughters, if you have sons, that are
Yes.
looking to pivot or are
Yes.
looking for something that will pay them well and be fulfilling and have recruiters contacting them, then
I'm
this is a
telling you.
great thing. Go
And
ahead.
and I mentioned recruiters. I literally just had an attorney message me on LinkedIn today to want me to come back into the law firm to do trust and estates. When I say you can ebb and flow in and out of different environments, and guess what? This is also a skill set that once you kind of get it under your belt, this is something that you could probably do on the side, for example,
Mm-hmm.
because I have had since because of my background, I've helped attorneys start their own estate planning practice because guess what? I worked in a law firm environment. I've been in trust and estates. So I helped baby attorneys build their trust and estates practice because I know the ins and outs of it. Guess what? You could do that too. You could say, hey, I need 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 for you to start your practice. And let me show you the templates that you'll need to start your practice. There's so many things that you can learn and pivot doing consultations and talking to families about the estate administration process and the ins and outs of the courts and what that looks like. There's so many things that even as a consultant, you can get into. But let me tell you, use that corporate environment, that corporate structure to learn it in the ins and outs and let them pay you to learn it. And then you can work practically with these families and have access to senior level directors in this field to help you and answer questions and review things with you. If you transition into this job or this career, because it's like I said, like I mentioned earlier, it's a career that's less traveled. And let me also say that I am one of two Black women in my company. There are only two trust officers that are Black women in my company. We have over 100 trust officers. When I was in a law firm in trust and estates, coming up working for these families, I never met another Black trust and estates paralegal.
Mm.
When I worked in California, that was the closest I came to being in in a more diverse environment. But even then, I didn't see us. In working with the financial planners that help me with these estates, I don't see us. And so when I say that this area is wide open, that's precisely what I'm telling you. It is wide open. But a lot of people get intimidated by talking about finances, especially the technical side,
Mm-hmm.
working with families, holding their hands. When you talk about taxes, people will get very intimidated. But it's one thing if you prepare tax returns every day, guess what? You'll be able to talk about tax returns to like the back of your hand.
It's
When
true.
you get involved and you do this over and over again, you're going to understand these things on a level that you could not imagine because you're practically working on it. It's one thing to be in a classroom and you don't get the follow-up practice and exposure. It's not happening as a trust officer. You have to be able to do it all and manage it all. And if you have a project management background, you're going to be ahead of the game too, because you got to think of each family as its own project and each asset that you're managed as its own project under that particular family. And right now I have 25 families on my dashboard. So imagine
Wow.
I have 25 families that are on my dashboard. That's what we call it in my company, the
Mm-hmm.
families that you're working with. And for each family, my average family their net worth is on the low end 5 million. So 5 million and up. This includes real estate. This includes vehicles. This includes art. This includes um, brokerage accounts. This includes annuities and IRAs and all of that. And so if you think about all these assets, there's a tax implication for holding these different types of assets
Mm-hmm.
and then managing and working through that. You have to have organizational skills out of the world in this particular job as well. I want that to be very clear because a beneficiary can call you and you have to be in on a dime, understand what family they're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
understand, understand the trust document. and reading the language and saying, oh, you're going to get this when you turn 25. So when right now you're 24, and walking them through that, you literally have to be able to break things down on a sixth grade level, but have a very high level view of all these families, their family dynamics, and all of these different situations. But when I tell you it is beyond rewarding financially, let's be very clear, it is very rewarding financially. But for me, and just knowing that I'm helping these families navigate through this time, I don't know what other career I could find myself in.
Right. I want to read some of these comments and then I have another question for you. So,
Okay.
Winter Shelley is saying, yes, going through probate when my mother passed away was quite horrendous. Yes, that is
Yeah.
true. And look, there are people who have wills that go through hell. There are people who have trust that can go through hell. And there are people who have nothing that can go through hell. So, it really,
And let me say something with that.
uh-huh.
People think that um probate is the worst thing that could happen. And I'm here to say that it's not.
Mm,
What probate will make you do is address what didn't get addressed before the person passed away. Probate will make you handle the business that should have been handled before your loved one passed away.
mhm.
And even for my clients, the majority of my clients, we don't have to go through probate court. Everything is in trust. They've had, attorneys and financial advisors and all of that. But guess what? Their life still has to be shut down. That requires somebody who knows the probate process and the post-mortem process for even contacting the credit bureaus and shutting down your profiles so that can be no fraud later on. Things like that. Um, so anyway, I just wanted to kind of mention that.
Yeah, yeah. So I've seen the dark side of death, and I've had when my father died, it was just me and my stepmother, and we were amicable,
Mhm,
so
mhm,
praise God, right? And then fortunately with my mom, I'm an only child. I don't think she has anybody else coming out the woodworks. So,
mhm.
that'll be easy. But yeah, like I've been in situations where, you know, it's the siblings of the person who died versus the children, or
Yes,
things like
yes.
it gets up when, especially when money gets in the way, it can get pretty ugly. So
And let me
uh,
tell you, when you got your documents lined up, there's only so much conversation you have to have with them, especially
mhm,
when you have proof of what the deceased person wanted,
mhm,
what they specified, and that you're not doing anything other than carrying out what they wanted. That they decided 5, 10 years ago.
right, right. Denise is saying my parents finally did their trust. It took weeks. Weeks is not so
Good.
bad though.
Hmm.
Depending on what they have, what they own, that's not so bad. So Beulah is saying Wendy Williams' family is treating her absolutely horrible. I haven't been keeping up with it like very closely, but I do know that she's supposed to be going back to court or something like that. So we'll see what
Hmm.
happens. I will admit is separate from Legacy. When Diddy, all that stuff came out with Diddy, the only person wanted to hear from was Wendy Williams, and I just felt like, oh my goodness, we miss Wendy Williams. But
Yeah.
my raisins is saying, I've always been interested in this field. Well, you are in the right place. You're in the right
Hmm.
place. Cricket is saying, I've always wanted to get into the finance and insurance field and just started learning about trust. Maybe you want to pivot over here, being a trust officer.
Yes.
Maggie is saying, are there any particular trust officer certifications that an advisor could acquire to improve their employment prospects? So I want to actually ask this question a different way. How do we break into the field? How do
It's
how so take it from somebody, let's assume that the person has a college degree, because we're going
yeah.
to separate that from somebody who doesn't have a college degree. But they
Hmm.
have a college degree, how do they break into the field?
You can break into the field by literally going on LinkedIn, literally looking up the trust officer criteria and getting connected with people who are in the field already. That's going to be your best way. is to get connected with people in the field.
So
So,
networking.
and people who are even adjacent to the field, because
Mhm.
oftentimes when there are openings, they're going to tell the CPA that they're working with. They're going to mention it to the financial advisor that they're working with, the
Mhm.
estate planning attorney that they're working with. And what I'm here to tell you is there are hundreds of trust companies in the United States.
Wow.
When I took my trust school one this past fall, I was in a cohort of 90 people who are doing the same thing, and they were representing about 60 different trust companies. And go look up these trust companies. Literally go to Google and type in trust company and look at the trust companies that will pop up. Not to mention banks. Most large banks have a trust division and a state division. So go look at your Chases and Bank of Americas and Wells Fargo's. And, even though I don't really particularly
I
care for
don't
the
mess
three of
with Wells
them, or,
Fargo.
yeah, but let me tell you, they have a trust, a division, and a
I'm sure
state
they do.
division. And so you can get in that way. So let's say you don't go directly through a corporate trustee or a corporate executor like my company is. And what do I mean by corporate executive and corporate trustee? Oftentimes, people name individuals, a family member, as their trustee or their executor for their estate, or a friend, or a trusted advisor. Well, the company that I work for, you can name our company as your trustee or executor. And when you do that, then I am the person on the other end that works on behalf of my company to navigate the trust administration or the estate administration process.
Mhm.
So when I tell you that, also everybody has a local bar association. Go and start networking in the estate planning division of your local bar association. Guess what? In Tennessee, which is where I am, you don't have to be an attorney to be able to come to these events. If you are in a related field, you can come to the event. You can be invited by an attorney that you do know to
Mhm.
come into the event and start networking. Because guess who also comes to the estate planning um, conventions and the estate planning events and council events? Trust officers, HR from trust companies.
So let's
Um,
stop right there. I will give people what I would do as a strategy for this. I would interview with 3 to 5 attorneys in order to do my own trust for myself and my family. And then what I would do during the interview stage is find out how do they keep up their, with their continuing education, and what are they doing to learn? Do they belong to the bar association? Things like that. You're looking for somebody to do your trust who could also get you into the rooms that you need to get into. Now, you
yes.
don't want somebody who's going to do a bad job for you. So you're looking for somebody who's going to do a good job for you and your family, even if it costs a little bit more,
And let
but
me,
also go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, go ahead. It made me think about something. I'm sorry.
But also is willing, like Legacy is saying, is willing to bring you into the rooms and introduce you to people. Hey, this is Cherie. She's my former client, or she's my client, and she wanted to come and connect with trust officers. That kind of warm handoff is what I talk about when I talk about you networking, and
Mhm.
networking with a purpose. The other thing is, even though Legacy is saying that the market is hot right now, which, I'm sure it is, I still believe in giving yourself a 2-year window to transition, because
Mhm.
I keep saying this, people need to see you. They need to see you over and over again. Are you going to fit into their corporate
Mhm.
culture? Do they feel comfortable with you? When you go in, maybe you join the organization. If they say it's $500 to join the organization, join, become a part of a committee,
Mhm.
participate. At some point, somebody's going to say, you know what? I like her. I've got a job over here. We're going to start her off at 130, but we're going to put her in trust school.
Yes.
That's how you play the game.
Let me tell you this. It's funny you mentioned that. The job that I have now, I had on the law firm side, I had been working with this particular trust officer at my organization for almost 9 years. We had been working on so when she had a case or a family where someone died and they needed an attorney to draft the probate documents, she always contacted my firm. I was always the paralegal that she talked to.
Mm-hmm.
So when there an opening came, she didn't even mention anything to me. She went straight to HR and said, "Hey, this is who I know. My law firm was going through a transition, so it
Mm-hmm.
came at a really really good time, but she sat in on my interview and basically said, basically hire her. I've worked with her
Mm-hmm.
for like 8 years. I know her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't like
Yeah,
I interviewed, but I didn't interview.
that was my job. That was my job was meet, like, I knew the CEO of the company, and it was like meet the COO and just make sure this is going to work. It wasn't like a real
Mhm,
interview.
mhm.
Right? And when you have those conversations and you're it just shifts everything.
It does.
You don't have to compete with 500 people
You do not.
on some LinkedIn posts to
You
get a
don't. You do
job.
not.
It doesn't work for you, and it doesn't work for anybody, but it
No.
especially doesn't work for us.
And specifically when you're wanting to work in careers that are tied to people who have this type of wealth,
Mhm.
your network is going to be the most important thing. Now that I'm sitting up, I think your network is going to be the most important thing because they're going to need to run you through someone else that they trust already.
Mhm.
You're going to need to do that because you're going to literally see and find out everything about this family. Once you're in this type of position, you're literally going to find out everything.
Mhm.
And they need to know, and the corporation that you work for going to need to know that you're not going to have them in a lawsuit
Mhm.
because you've had to, certain type of conversation that you shouldn't have had or governed yourself inappropriately at certain events and conversations. This is this field has a lot of potential. But there's also a lot of opportunity for you to get it wrong when you don't have the correct disposition and mindset going in. And I want to also mention that I've worked for two different companies that recruited from the same school.
Mhm.
There's a school in North Carolina called Campbell University. They are the only one, if maybe one of maybe two or three schools in the country that where you can get specifically trained in trust and fiduciary careers.
Mhm.
And matter of fact, I'm looking down here in my notes. I'm trying to figure out the
Mhm.
exact. Um, they offer the nation's only undergraduate and graduate degree programs in trust and wealth. It's called Campbell University. So if
Campbell
you have
University in North Carolina.
in North Carolina,
Okay.
yes. And when I say every intern that I've worked with has come from Campbell University, they highly recruit from Campbell University. You will get your foot in the door. If you have, if you're in your early 20s or if you're thinking about transitioning or shifting careers, they recruit heavily and almost exclusively from Campbell University.
Is that how it's spelled?
Campbell,
CAMPBELL?
Campbell.
Campbell University. Y'all, you got it here. Kay is in the building. Hello, Kay Business Channel. Um, Mackie is asking, how important is business etiquette and social etiquette in the trust advisor industry?
It's very, very important. And not so much in that. So this is a career path where you play your, how do I say it? You're the highlight of the background.
Mhm.
Because what do I mean by that? In that it's not that people are expecting you to be from a certain class. What they're expecting is that for you to do great work, have a great work product. So when you come into the home, when I enter these homes and the person is good and deceased, gone, I'm entering the home, going in to kind of uh inventory their assets in the house. I put booties on my feet, on my shoes, and I wear gloves, for example, out of respect. um, when you're having conversations with financial advisors and CPAs and the gardener and the landscaper, these I treat everyone with respect, but everyone also knows that I'm the person that is basically navigating this whole process. So business etiquette, social graces, social etiquette is very important. But to be quite honest, you you kind of fall into that, so to speak, because it's a necessity of the career because of the type of people that you work with and the type of people that you deal with.
So, uh, y'all know I love to say some controversial things, and I've always said that when things and when opportunities are not promoted to Black people, those are the opportunities we really want to pay attention to. And I have yet to see anybody, any YouTube channel talking about this as like a major opportunity, much less, I mean, we're right. They just started over the past 5 years, like really talking about Black people getting into tech, right? Except for those pioneers 10, 15 years
Mhm,
ago, right? Nobody's talking about this for us. So I do think that this is a major opportunity. Again, if you're looking for a transition or something like that, I do want to ask you a question though about people who do not have a college degree,
mhm,
um, or our young people. Maybe, we've got a parent, on
mhm,
here who's thinking about something for a son or a daughter, or we have a
mhm,
young person who is, going through college now, one of our young UMBWs.
mhm.
What do you think they should study? Is it that they can study any major? Kind of just walk us through that. What are your thoughts with regards to that?
I would shift my interest to anything in finance, economics, um, as I mentioned, Campbell University. Um, with this, I actually think of being a trust officer as a type of technical skill because of the project management component, because of the tax component. So and so this is I also try to get experience working for and with these people. So let's just say you're not necessarily particularly ready to go into trust officer. Like I mentioned, the trust officer has a team of people that work underneath him or her sometimes. So maybe you intern as a trust assistant. Maybe you get a part-time job as a trust assistant or trust administrator. Maybe you work at a bank on the wealthier side of town to where you're exposed to these individuals and and you work in private banking and wealth management at a bank and the
Mhm.
on the upper echelon side of the of your city or your state. Um, if you can work with, let me tell you too, if you can work part-time or get in as an estate planning paralegal or an assistant at a firm. Now, let me tell you this, all firms are not created equal. There's a
Mhm.
very specific type of firm you want to go to, and it's called a boutique estate planning or trust administration law firm. Oftentimes, they'll have trust administration, they'll have business entity formation and governance, they'll have estate planning and also estate planning and trust litigation. Let me tell you where else you can write your ticket. If you understand the implications of how to avoid lawsuits when it comes to trust administration and estate administration. You can write your ticket as well. Because it's a type of audit. There's also trust. So there's a team of people that comes into my organization to audit the accounts and families that we govern, that we help. So it keeps us on our P's and Q's. So I'm mentioning another career path in auditing corporate entities that serve as trustees and executors. So guess what you need to know? You need to know what to look for. You have to know the whole thing from beginning to end, but this is another career. Guess what? I've never seen a person of color come through our building, not Black, not Asian, not Hispanic, that has come through and been an auditor. They have been white men and white women.
Wide open, ladies, wide open. So Rana's in the building. Hello, my dear. My Raisin asked the question. You had mentioned earlier about having the correct disposition and mindset. Who is appropriate and not appropriate for this field?
If you are an adult and have had or should have had any type of career under your belt, you should be able to navigate through this field. If you've held any type of position in where you've had to manage people, if you've had to, if you had anything as a director or vice president, senior VP level, you should be able to manage yourself. And even if you haven't, ask yourself, would you hire you? How do you govern your own life? How do you manage your own day-to-day? What does your social media profile say about you? Because whether we like it or not, how we present ourselves on and off the clock matters in this field. Specifically, what we do on and off the clock. And I know that, we just want to be free. And I'm not saying that you need to be buttoned up and tied up. I'm not saying that. But there is a level of discretion that will permeate through you that you have or don't have before you even open your mouth. And so that is the person that is going to be appropriate for this field. And these are skill sets that you can learn. It's just that, do you have a disposition where it's going to be easier or harder for you to learn it?
Yeah. I mean, some of us do certain things better than others. Some of us are really great with our soft skills, yet the technical piece of being a trust officer, you may have to work a little bit harder at. And then, vice versa may be the case where you're very good at the technical aspect of it, but there's some part of the soft skills or the emotional intelligence or, being able to read the room that you may have to work on a little bit more. I have said this before in previous videos. Some of us need to take etiquette classes, like true etiquette classes. If you are sitting at a dining room table with the full set of cutlery and the water glass versus the wine glasses, do you know what to reach for? Like, people, especially ultra high net worth people and the high net worth people, they know these things,
Yes.
So there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, over the next couple of months, I'm going to find an etiquette class, and it could be 4 classes that goes in depth. To me, that's the kind of education that really goes a long way. So Denise is saying, it's making me rethink tech, but I need to finish that course. This is great information. Well, first of all, I'm glad that you are enjoying tonight's conversation. Second, finish your tech, Denise, because I know you've been working on it. I think you've been doing cybersecurity or something like that. So no. Data. You tell me what you've been doing, Denise. I feel like it's data something. But yeah, these are just, again, ideas and ways
Yes.
to reach UMBW status or transition if that's what you want to do,
Mhm.
etc. So, um, Mentor Shelley, hopefully you've got some ideas as well as you are coaching people. Mentor Shelley's starting to work a lot more with Gen Z people.
Mhm.
So, Mentor Shelley, I hope that you will drop these little nuggets with regards to the trust and estates field for
Yes.
our young Gen Z people to really get in there because they may be able to relate to some of the millennials better than other people. So, hope you'll do that. Um, my Raisins is asking, how flexible is your job at different levels? What is the work-life balance? Are there part-time options? You already answered that. Travel options, you answered that as well. And then work from home.
Mhm.
Work from home
Yes.
is another big thing. Yeah.
So right now, we have a hybrid environment. In the summertime, which was May, June, July, and August, we do 2 days in the office, 3 days at home. The
Okay.
rest of the year, it's 3 days in the office, 2 days at home.
Okay.
So it's a hybrid environment. There is flexibility. Actually, this is the most flexible. Let me tell you, this is the most money I've ever made in my life with the most amount of flexibility I've ever had.
Yep.
So it's all about the environment. I do know other trust companies that don't have the flexibility, but guess what? They may pay a little more.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it wasn't. I valued the flexibility over the additional 20 or $30,000 I could have made going to another company. And let me tell you, when you get this under your belt, if this is a career that you want to transition into, people are going to know your name, and most especially with you being a Black woman, you're going to stand out,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're going to come looking for you. They're going to pull you. This year alone, I've literally had 4 different companies reach out to me, and it's February, the middle of February.
I was about to say this year alone is 6 weeks.
Yes. Yes.
Look, ladies, don't sleep on this. Definitely don't sleep on this. So, uh, I will make one suggestion to my young UMBWs. Anybody under the age of 30, I would say, especially if you don't have children, find some place where you're going into the office 5 days a week. I cannot tell you how valuable that is. If you are 22, 23, 24, I cannot say this enough. Do not get sucked into these people online talking about, I want to work from home and all of that. If you do not have children, I cannot say this enough. Go into the office. You're going to pick up so much just from being in the environment, hearing the different people, the different conversations. It's easier to network when you're in the office. So I hope I'm driving that point home. If you were young, especially if you were young, go
Mhm.
into the office.
I'm glad you brought that up. Even with my background, I came into this job with over a decade of experience in trust and estates already.
Mhm.
My first 8 months, I had the flexibility. I went in the office every day.
Mhm.
The first 8 months, I literally went into the office every day and I did not have to, but I was very strategic about um, going in. And even now, the days that I go into the office, I go on the days when other people aren't there.
Mhm.
So my presence is known and my presence is accounted for because nobody expects you to come in on a Monday or Friday when you could have stayed at home.
Mhm. It makes a difference. So, Maine, I'm not sure why you're asking this. What about women who are very beautiful and want to join? I've heard it's hard for them. Why do you think it's hard for a beautiful woman to join the industry? I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
Mhm.
Mentor Shelley is saying absolutely 100%. This is a very lucrative field given the right soft skills. So she's going to drop those gems in for the Gen Zers out there that
Mhm.
to participate. So, and Mentor Shelley, if you and Legacy want to get together and do something on your channel, That may help some of the Gen Zers that are watching. I'll definitely connect you to if you want to
I
be
also
connected.
wanted to mention that somebody mentioned about the opportunity for travel.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of opportunity for travel in this particular position, and there's an opportunity for you to also learn the trust and estate administration process in other countries.
Mm.
These people own properties all over the world. I have an estate open in the Philippines right now. I have
Mhm.
one in Mexico that's open. Um, I think I'm about to have two in they're actually kind of getting vetted for my dashboard in Portugal. So
Mhm.
you're going to get an opportunity to not only learn what happens here in the US, but how the other court systems and processes work in other countries because these people they live around the world.
They do. I did a presentation yesterday, and one of the people that was in the audience is a woman who has a whole bunch of property in Brazil. She's selling that property in Brazil and bringing her money to the United States to buy property. And guess who she wants as her loan officer?
Mhm,
So, don't sleep on these international opportunities because they
mhm.
definitely are here. So, um, Dark and Lovely is saying, thank you for this very insightful, informative discussion. Mackie is saying, and men should also take business etiquette and social etiquette classes. Of course they should. Those skills are important for interacting with upper tier and upper class business owners and high status professionals. Of course they are. Denise, she started with data analytics and she is now doing quality assurance, QA. That's it. Since QA also uses SQL and Python, the data course was paid by my employer. Girl, take the tech course. I'm not
Yes.
against tech. I honestly am not. I think that if tech is your thing, take tech.
Mhm.
This is
Yeah.
another option, being a trust officer. One day I'm going to come on and talk about being a loan officer and how you make six figures doing that.
Mhm.
I'll have other people coming on. We've had Notary World come on. I'm going to have other people coming on talking about like ways that they're doing it. I'm going to also interview some people who are doing very well with part-time businesses, full-time businesses,
Mhm.
things like that. So we're about to kick up the channel in March, April timeframe. So, stay tuned. But
Mhm.
I will say this to Denise and anybody else that's listening to this but was already on another path. It's okay to stay on that path. You're aware of this just so if you're talking to your girlfriends or people like, that you're networking with and they're like, I don't know what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. And what you're doing is not their thing. You could say, hey, I know this crazy girl called Black Women Making Money, and she's got, this woman who came on and talked about being in trust and estates and the fact that it's a wide open opportunity. Why don't you consider that? Right.
Mhm.
And that's what I use these discussions for. I'm very comfortable being a loan officer, but I know that I speak to a lot of other people and they don't necessarily know what they want to do. And I can throw out a few things and say, you should check it out. So,
Mhm.
um, Denise is also saying flexibility is very important. Um, Mackie is saying you're pretty privileged with high level social etiquette. You'll have to let them know that you are beautiful and smart. Okay, if that was the concern, yeah. There, I guess I know beautiful and smart people, so I don't think it's a big deal. But yes, there are some people who need to be reminded. Mr. Shelley's saying, yes, I would love to collaborate and discuss this field on my channel. Appreciate it. So if you don't mind, Legacy, I'll put you two together.
Sure,
And
sure.
yes, and I think you two would have a great a great time, sorry, talking to Gen Z. Um, my raisins are saying, I believe no education is wasted. This is true. This is
Mhm.
true, but now we need to learn how to monetize our education, especially because education is becoming so costly and so expensive. And I have said this before on this channel, 20 years from now, your college degree will be a sign of your class and your socioeconomic class in society 20 years from now.
Let me tell you, you're right about that in that having a bachelor's degree, it doesn't It's not specific to what type of bachelor's degree, but having a bachelor's degree,
Mhm.
period, is a prerequisite to becoming a trust officer, and it has been for almost every trust officer that I know. Even if you wanted to, and I'm gonna mention this, to become a CFP, a certified financial planner, a bachelor's degree is a prerequisite. If you want to go to law school and maybe you want to become an estate planning attorney or any type of attorney, an undergraduate degree, bachelor's degree is a prerequisite. For a lot of these career paths, or to have the opportunity to kind of branch out, that degree is a requirement, period, for these careers that can pay you the 120, 130, 152, 300 plus. It is.
Absolutely. So Ron is saying you can't have these discussions in real life. I think we should have the discussions in real life. You know,
Mhm,
I now you don't broadcast it to everybody in your circle, but if you're talking to the right person, why not? Like,
mhm,
put you to the side and school you on some things that they don't tell us. And this is one of those things. So,
mhm,
Rana is saying your degree will determine your class. I've been saying it for a while. And it's not necessarily right now,
mhm,
but I definitely believe 15, 20 years from now, it will. It will. And the pendulum always swings back, which is why I'm telling you, as my young ladies, before you have children, get your education, just get a bachelor's degree and get your skills. Get your skills,
mhm,
because um, once you have children, it becomes infinitely harder for you to stop, pivot, do, change things up, etc. So, um, Cricket is saying, I jumped on late, so I'm sure I missed some valuable information. I have many questions, but most pertinent questions are, is this something Gen X can transition to? And where exactly is the best place to start? So if you can answer those two questions for us, please.
So this is a great um, career for Gen X to transition to. One is because Gen X, you probably have a lot of skills already under your belt that would allow you to be able to transfer into this field, maybe not at the trust officer level, but getting as a trust assistant or trust administrator and maybe hanging out there for a couple years and then transitioning to trust officer. You have had a career or doing something for a long time now, and I promise you, if you could get, and if I understand, mentor Shelly or someone like her to rework your resume, this is definitely something that you could transition into. And there was another question, right? A second question.
Yes,
Oh,
is
the
this,
best place to start.
yes, the best
Um,
place to start? Yes.
I will always go back to expand your network into people who are in the field already or adjacent to it. And I'm talking about CPAs, and specifically CPAs who work for and with high net worth people. Find a CPA that does trust and estate tax returns. Go on the different CPA firm websites, find them, find out where they're hanging out. Go and socialize with them at their events, their CPA events. Estate planning attorneys, specifically those that have boutique estate planning firms, and 90 to 100% of their practice is trust and estates for high net worth and ultra high net worth people. Financial advisors, um, even networking with people who are. I have an opportunity. Let me tell you how this career path can just open up so many doors for so many people. Because I'm now a trust officer, and if guess let's say you have a moving company, guess what we have to do all the time? Clean out these houses, move
Mhm.
these people. Guess what? I'm now in a position to be able to make a recommendation, because guess what? I decide what attorney I work with when I want to open a probate. when I need to open probate. I decide what realtor I want to use when I need to sell this multi-million-dollar home. I decide what moving company I work for that that I want to work with when I want to clear out this house and move a family from one side of the country to the other, or get a home staged and ready for sale. And so guess what? This career path has opened my eyes in so many ways, and there are adjacent career fields to this, to me being a trust officer, where I'm looking for us. And because we don't have the time, or we're not specifically, our business is not specifically catered to working with these types of people, we get overlooked. And so if you think about lawn care services, you think about all of these things that have to be maintained and done for people who happen to just have more money than the average person. There's opportunity, but now I'm in a position and I have a say so on who I work with. And when you do a good job, your name goes on the list. And guess what? Another trust officer can choose you and your business.
I like that. I mean, so we had the conversation earlier about you, you know, starting with, again, wanting to get your own documents done, and you interview five, let's say five trust officers. You're not going to necessarily choose the least expensive person. You're going to choose the
Right.
person with the network that once they've worked with you and you've worked with them and you like each other, that either they will hire you, or more importantly, they will bring you into the networking events where you want to be, right? So
Yes.
that's like basic level way for you to get in, is to do that.
Mhm.
Because that lawyer's trust will then transfer. Um, Also, with Gen X, if you work, let's say you work at a bank right now, for example, and you've been there for a while, and they have a trust division, I would network with the people in the trust division, become friendly
Yes.
with them, take
Yes.
them to lunch, take them
Yes.
to happy hour.
Yes.
Hey, I'm thinking about transitioning into trust. What Tell me about an average day. What do you like about it? What does the team need? Oh, I can do that for the team. It to me, Gen X, depending on where you
Yes.
work, a transition from
Yes.
one department to another department, be there
Mhm.
for 2 years, and the next thing you know, you could get scooped up someplace else for a much higher salary, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
like really thinking, kind of playing chess and really thinking strategically as Gen X. It's not too late for Gen X.
It is not.
You're
And let me
what?
tell
60?
you, and guess what? And because of the demographic that we typically work for, they prefer oftentimes to work with a seasoned appearing person,
Mhm.
because of just who they are. A boomer would is going to be a lot of times more comfortable working. Gen X has that advantage,
Mhm.
in that you have a certain set of people skills that you've developed, and actually was came naturally for you just because of how the environment you were raised in and how you
Right.
grew up, and culturally it's going to be more natural than maybe some other generations. So it's very, let's just say, um our oldest trust officer retired last year, and she was 76 years old.
Mhm.
This is a career that you can get into and
For a
really
while.
get, when I say a long time, a
That's
long
what I'm
time.
looking at for my career as well. It's like I can be in this career another 25 years, make
Yes,
really good money, and be
yes.
okay, right? Because I have the flexibility, I can work from home, things like that. So I
Mhm.
think what you're saying is important as well. The other interesting thing about being Gen X, I'm almost 50 years old, is when my mother makes references to music and movies and things like that. I know those things because I grew up, you know. versus I'm watching the show right now. It's the Kathy Bates show, Matlock. And part of the cast is like she's 70 something years old, and the rest or part of the cast is like in their 20s. And she will say certain things and they don't get it because the age and the generations is too far gone, you know?
Mhm.
So when she's talking with a witness who is an older person, like I would say over the age of 50, they relate to her more than they relate to the millennials, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah, so what you're saying is important as well. It's like somebody would say, I don't know, Family Ties is a TV show, or,
Mhm.
you know, some shows from the 70s, Columbo, for example. My poor
Mhm.
millennials and Gen Zers would be like, "What's Columbo?" You know, but we would get it
Right.
as Gen X. So, yeah. Yeah. So Notary World is in here saying, I'm late, girl. You are right on time. All you have to
Mhm.
do this is stand up. So just listen to the replay. But yeah, she
Mhm.
dropped major gems, Notary World. Major gems. Uh Cat Bravo is saying fantastic conversation. Denise is saying 76. She was probably doing her job well with her eyes closed.
Let me tell you, she was the if you wanted the tax return from your client, if you wanted to catch a CPA with any mistakes, take it to her.
Hmm.
She would get us the trust tax return or state tax return from the CPA and then go through it by hand, making sure the calculations were right.
Wow. Mm. Uh, Notary is saying, this is my type of talk. I will watch the replay. So we're almost to the end of our discussion time, but I definitely wanted to, give you any final thoughts. I really enjoyed tonight's conversation. I see so much opportunity in here. Um,
Yes.
and I think it's just a matter of like we gave people a plan. We gave people a blueprint. All you have to do is do step one,
Mhm.
2, 3, and execute, right?
And I like
But
that you mentioned a 2-year if you wanted to
Mhm.
transition, that 2-year planning process, that's perfect. That is
Yes,
perfect for you to plan out the education piece if there's something missing there, and the experience at the same time,
and the networking.
and the networking all together. 2 years is excellent.
You know why I started talking about that? Because my transition took 2 years. It
Mhm.
actually took 3 years from the point I got sick and tired of being sick and tired to, like, the transition was complete, was 3 years. And
Mhm.
it was like 1 year for me to find something new and stop doing what I was doing before, and then 2 years for me to get up and running in my new career. And what I
Mhm.
got tired of seeing on YouTube and other social media was people saying, "Oh, this person changed their life in 30 days." Well, for the super majority of people, and I say super majority, I mean
Mhm.
98% of people, it's not gonna happen in 30 days. So if I sell
No.
you it's going to happen in 30 days and it doesn't, then you think what? Oh, this isn't going to work. I can't do it, etc. Whereas if I tell you, no, it's a 2-year plan and here's how
Mhm.
you're going to do it, then at least you know, okay, I got to be in it for
Yes.
2 years. So that's why I
Yes.
started talking like that.
That's great.
hmm Um, Annalisa is here. Annalicia is here. Sorry, I don't think I've seen you before. So welcome. Saying, love this live. Have you met any nurses that have transitioned into this field? I could see nurses being great for
Oh,
this.
we have 2 nurses at the company that I work 2 former nurses at the company I work for, and both of them no, one of them is on our distinctive care team, which I mentioned before, because they have that elder care background. And yes, nursing, because of your aptitude and your bedside manner and things like that that you had to have and kind of honed over the years in nursing, your temperament a lot of times is very suitable for this career path already.
Love it. And unagreeable is saying awesome conversation. Well, unagreeable, you seem agreeable to me um,
Mhm.
this evening. Final words you want to say, Legacy, with regards to everything we talked about this evening.
The only thing that I have to say is that I appreciate you and the work that you're doing. Um, I just can imagine the amount of time that it takes and the dedication that it takes, but you've been so consistent and also brought a different set of eyes and perspective to what we as upwardly mobile Black women should be doing, how we should be doing it, and you remaining consistent in delivering that message. I just want to say I appreciate you. I thank you. And if there's ever anything I can do to help in any way move this conversation forward, this movement forward, I'm here.
Well, you've done it by being here this evening, by suggesting this conversation. And we're just here to elevate each other, right?
Mhm.
And I feel very grateful that you're a part of my life and a part of the UMBW family. And we know each other, in real life,
Mhm.
IRL, I guess.
Mhm.
Well, at least we've spoken to each other on the phone a couple of
Yes.
times. So,
Yes.
yeah, and it just continuing to be like the same person you are. Maybe like Notary World comes back every once in a while. Maybe you'll come back every 6 months, and just we'll do this over and over again as we get
Mhm.
people coming through the door, because the world is shifting. It is
Yes.
shifting, and if you're
Yes.
not ready for it, you're going to really get left behind. And all I want to do is my part, and that's all I can do on this channel is my part for that. So,
Yes, this
um,
career path is wide open, is
I hope.
here for the taking. There
Mhm.
are assets that need to be managed, and just my company alone, we manage over $9 billion in assets.
9 billion, just her boutique company, because she said work
Boutique,
for a
yes,
boutique company, ladies.
yes.
So, Mentor Shelley is saying very fruitful and enlightening conversation. Having lucrative career options is absolutely vital, especially now. We appreciate this conversation. And Alicia is saying, thanks so much for answering. The question was for her mom, who is a nurse. Even better, I'm a Gen
Mhm,
Zer, so mom may be a Gen Xer, a Gen X nurse. Oh, please, yes. And
mhm.
Alicia is a Zer in software engineering. I love it. Appreciate you being here, Annalicia. All right, ladies. Well, we will be back next Monday with another topic. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Legacy, for giving us so much information this evening.
Thank
And
you.
ladies, go out there, make your dreams come true. And I will see y'all next week. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.